Hi everyone, this is Mrs. Heller, and I hope you're all doing well during this quarantine. We really miss you guys. We are going to start off with a little bit of review from what we learned last week. So we're going to start with writing an aligned segment. So I'm going to look on here for a line segment, and I see one here, and I'm going to call this line segment AB. And the code for writing that is A, B, you could also write BA, with a line on the top with no arrows. Next, I'm going to look for a line. And so I see a line right here between C and D. I could also call it CE or ED or DC. A line can go in both directions. It has arrows on both ends. So I'm going to call that one line CD. And I'm going to put a line on the top with two arrows. Okay. Next is array. See if you can find one. Think about how you would write it. Array goes on in one direction, and the endpoint is on one side. So this right here would be considered array, EF. And I'm going to write the arrow going towards the F because that's the arrow in the picture. Other arrays, I could call CD array. It would start on C and continue through D. Or I could even call DC array. DC would start at D and continue on through C. So we have array, we have a line, and a line segment. Okay. Next, we talked about the three types of angles. So an angle is an opening or a turning of two rays that meet at a vertex. The point where they meet is called the vertex. This is going to be really important for today's lesson when we measure angles. So this first angle that we're going to talk about is a right angle. A right angle is 90 degrees. You can find a right angle by using any kind of corner of a piece of paper, and you can put that right in there on that angle. When you write an angle, you want to use the little angle symbol. It's kind of like a sideways L. And make sure that the letter that is on the vertex is in the middle. So I would call this angle DEF. Next, we're going to use this shape right here to talk about an acute angle. An acute angle is less than 90. If I use my little square in here and line it up on one line on one side, you can see that the other line is inside of it, so that's why it's acute. It's a cute little angle. It is less than 90. And I'm going to make sure that when I write this angle name, I call it with the vertex in the middle. So G angle, angle sign, G, H, and I. Okay. All right, we don't have any obtuse angles on here, so let's draw one. I'm going to use my straight edge here. I'm going to draw a little bit extra going this way, an arrow on the end, and I'm going to label that I. No, J. I already have an I. So this angle is obtuse, and I can tell it's obtuse if I put my right template in here. This line extends out beyond the right angle. It's more than 90, and it is OBTUSE. Again, I want angle H in the middle, but I'm going to start with IH and this time end on J. And that's an obtuse angle. Okay. So next we are going to talk about parallel lines. So there is a pair of parallel lines, say parallel line segments. AB is parallel here to CD. How we write that is AB, and then we use kind of a double L, like parallel bars, is parallel to CD. And we're going to put a line on both of those. And they are opposite each other, and they never meet or intersect. And that's how you can tell something is parallel. Next, we're going to talk about perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines make a right angle. And we can find a right angle right here, but when we write perpendicular lines, we have to actually write the two line segments or lines. because we don't want to just write the angle like that. We actually want to have it more like this with the perpendicular sign, which is upside down T in the middle. So CD is perpendicular to EF. When we were sharing in my class Zoom meeting, I had some kids that were identifying the perpendicular line as DEF, which is actually identifying a right angle. So you just want to make sure that you are labeling the two sets of perpendicular lines with the symbol in the middle. Okay, so that's our review. Before we get into today's lesson, I want you to take a look at angle GHI, and I want you to estimate in your head. Is that angle measure going to be closer to 30, which is less than 90, and acute, or closer to 150, which is more than 90, or obtuse? And I think it's clear that you can say that that is most likely going to be around 30 degrees. It's going to be less than 90, and it is acute. This angle right here, JHI, is probably closer to 150 because it is more than 90. 90 would be right here. And it's obtuse. So I could estimate that. That's going to help us today when we're doing our angle measurements with our protractors. All right, I'm going to flip it over here, and we are going to talk about our objective for today, which is I can use a protractor to measure angles in degrees. So on Friday's lesson, we looked at a circle protractor. I know you guys don't have one of these at home. Hopefully you watched the Zern lessons and you were able to identify that in a circle, there are 360 degrees. And in a circle protractor, it is made up of 1, 2, 3, 4 right angles. All put together equals 90 plus 90 plus 90 plus 90, 360, or 90 times 4. So there are 4 right angles in a circle, and you can see that in our circle protractor. Today, though, we're going to be using a protractor that is only half. Let me show you without the angles behind it. It's half of a circle. And let me tell you a few things about this protractor before we get started. First of all, this right here, this little dot, is where we're going to line up the vertex. That is where the angle starts to turn. And sometimes the vertex on some protractors is at the bottom, and the line is here, but you always can figure out where it's at by looking at the 0. So where's 0? 0 is right here, and that's lined up right along these lines right here. Okay. So if I was to use this protractor, which is a little different, I would line up my vertex right here, and I would line up the side of my angle right here on the inside because that lines up with 0. So those are the two things you have to know. You have to know where am I going to put the vertex and where am I going to line up one of the sides. The other side of the angle is going to be somewhere in here where we're going to measure it, okay? But one side has to be on this line right here. This is what yours looks like. Another thing about your protractors is that there are 2 sets of numbers. There is a bottom set of numbers and there's a top set of numbers. And you have to figure out before you start measuring, well, which one am I looking at? Am I looking at the bottom or am I looking at the top? Now this one, the angle would start here on 0 and it would open this way. I would be using the bottom set of numbers. If the angle was opening this way, I would want to look for 0, which is here, and use the top set of numbers. But you can also tell which set of numbers you're going to use by thinking about what type of angle is it. Is it a right angle? Does it look like a right angle? Is it an acute angle? Or is it obtuse? And you want to name it correctly. Another thing I want to say, and you can pause the video if you want since we're going to do some work in our workbooks, is if you don't have a sharp pencil, sometimes it's really hard to measure these angles correctly. So you want to make sure that you have a nice sharp pencil before you start this lesson. All right, we're going to do these together, and then we're going to do some I'm going to do these for you, and then you're going to do some in your workbook. So let's decide if it is closer to right, acute, obtuse. And then we are going to name it using the letter name. So this one, think about that one. What does that one look like? Right, acute, or obtuse? Hopefully you said it looks like it's right. And how would you name that? Think about it. If you said angle A, B, C, or angle C, B, A, you would be correct. Either answer is correct. Okay, moving on, think about this one. Is this angle right, acute, or obtuse? And that one looks like it is less than 90, and hopefully you said that one was acute. And how would you name this angle? Think about it. Hopefully you named it either angle D, E, F, or angle F, E, D. Both names are accurate. Notice the E is in the middle for both. All right, let's look at the next one. Is this angle right, acute, or obtuse? Well, this one looks more than 90. If I put my template in here along one side, you can see that it is more than 90. So that's obtuse. And let's do the angle name. And you might have said either GHI or angle IHG. Both would be correct. And the last one is opening the other direction. This is kind of what I talked about on the angle measurement. It's opening, instead of opening this way, it's opening this way. And this one does not have letters on it, but it is also obtuse, and you can see that. All right, we are going to measure these angles. I'm going to show you this, and then we'll do some of our work ones. So the first thing you want to do when you're measuring an angle is you want to take the vertex, and you want to, take the center dot and put it on the vertex. And then you want to make sure that this line right here is lined up on the leg or one of the sides of the angle. Okay, now if you'll look up here, this isn't touching the top of the protractor. So if it's not touching here, it's really hard to read that measurement. I know this one is 90 degrees because we put our template in here and it fit perfectly. So I really don't have to measure this one with my protractor, but I can extend this line to make it longer. And then when I line it up again, it's touching 90. So this one is 90 degrees. All right, so let's try this one. So we're going to put our circle on the vertex, line up one of the sides. Now, some kids in 4th grade, they line it up like this. Think about what would be wrong with that. Well, if you said the angle's not inside the protractor, you'd be right. It's opening this way. There's no way I'm going to be able to measure that. There's nothing inside the protractor for me to measure. So you have to make sure that you are lining it up so that the angle is opening into the protractor. All right, this is not long enough. It's not touching the sides. And sometimes we might need to use these little tiny lines up here. So I'm going to move my straight edge, and I'm going to line that up as best I can, hold it nice and firm, and extend that line. Okay. Now I'm going to line that back up again. Now you can see it's going right through the angles. So I'm going to start here I'm going to think about, okay, well, I already know this is acute. So I want to use the numbers on the inside because those ones are less than 90. Also, my angle is opening this way, so I know this is where 0 is, and it's opening this way. All right, so here we go. 10, 20, and then it's not quite to 30, so now we have to go up here and use the top lines. 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. It's about 27 degrees. And that's acute, so I know I'm probably accurate. All right, we're looking at the next one, which is obtuse. We're going to line that up. We're going to make sure that it is opening inside the protractor, and it is. Is it long enough? Not quite, so let's extend that line. Make sure it's nice and lined up. Make sure that when you're extending your line, you're not doing this, because that's not really making it straight, is it? You want to make sure that straight edge is right on there, and use the straight edge. You have one with your protractor, so it's really easy to use. Okay, let's try that again. Now this one is obtuse, so I want to use which set of numbers? Think about it. Top or bottom? If you said bottom, you're right, because we want a number that is going to be more than 90, and 140 is closest to that. So also it's opening this direction, so we want to start from 10 or 0. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130. There's 140. Looks like it's one before that. So let's count by ones right here. 131, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39. 139. And then we use the symbol for degrees, which looks like that. Okay. Now I wanted to show you one that is facing the other direction. Okay. So that one is facing opening this direction, which is different than this direction. So I am going to think again of which numbers I'm going to use, but first I'm going to extend this line. Nice and hold it down. Okay, line it up again. All right, so are we going to use the bottom numbers between 30 and 40 or the top numbers between 140 and 150? Well, hopefully you said between 140, 150. Again, make sure that this bottom line is lined up right on this side line right here. If you try to measure it like that, it's going to be wrong. If you try to measure it like that, it's going to be wrong. You got to make sure it's nice and lined up straight. Okay, so we are using the top numbers, and we'll start here. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130, 140, and now we can count lines. 141, 142, 143, 144, 145, 146, 147, 148. It looks about 148. So 148 degrees. Okay. All right, let's switch over to your workbook, and we'll do a few together. Before we even start using our protractors, let's decide if these are acute, obtuse, or right. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to write that down. And you can write an A for acute, an O for obtuse, or an R for right. Okay, take a few minutes to put an A, an O, or an R for all of these angles and all of these angles. Okay, we're going to get started. Hopefully you said that this one was acute. So we're looking for a number that's less than 90. Sometimes it's nice to kind of make this dot a little bit bigger. It's easier to line it up. And then think about where you're going to line it up, which would be right about here. And so we want to extend that second leg, the leg that's not on the line down here. So we're going to extend that all the way. Now you're going to hold that nice and firm. Hopefully you have a nice sharp pencil. And you want to make that line nice and straight. Okay. Go ahead and extend that line if you haven't yet. All right. Now line up that vertex. Hold it nice and firm. Make sure that second leg right here of the second ray of your angle is nice and lined up on your line. And think about which numbers you're going to use, the 40 or the 140. Well, we know it's acute, so we're going to be using the bottom set of numbers. So we're going to start here, 10, 20, 30. Now count from ones. Oops, mine went off a little bit. I got to hold it nice and firm. Okay, so 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37. Looks like it's kind of between 37 and 38. So I'm going to say it's 137 or 37. So that is 37 degrees. Okay. And check yours. See if that's what you got. Okay. All right. We're going to move on to this one. This one is facing the other direction. You can see it's opening towards the right. This one was opening towards the left. Okay, put a dot right here. Line it up. Oh, hopefully you said this is acute, obtuse, or right. Think. Hopefully you said acute, because it is. All right, again, we are going to line that vertex up underneath my protractor. We're going to line up that second ray, the bottom ray, along the side with the black line. And looks like I need to extend that line. So I'm going to turn my straight edge, hold it nice and firm, and extend that line. Okay, let's try it again. Here we go. All right, which set of numbers are you using? Bottom or top? This time we're going to use the top set of numbers because we want to start with 10 and we know that our number is going to be less than 90. So here we go. There's 10, 20, 30. There's 40. This is where some kids think, oh, that's 45. Is it 45 though? Let's take a look. 45 would actually be right here. Yes, it's between 30 and 40, but the numbers are getting bigger this direction. So I need to count by ones starting from 30 to be going in the same direction. So 31, 32, 33, 34, 35. It's about 35 degrees. Okay. We're going to look at angle C. Now, if I look at that right away, I can say, wow, that looks like it's 90. So I can use my right angle template. It looks like it fits right in there, and I'm going to say it's 90 degrees. But I'm going to also show you, oops, that if I was to extend this line, and line up my protractor, it would hit right at 90. So that's another way you can do that. That one also looks like it might be 90, so we're going to skip that one, and I want to show you an obtuse angle. So F is obtuse. Looks like it's opening to the right. Okay, we're going to put a vertex there. I know already I'm going to have to extend my line. It's not long enough. Let's line up my vertex right here. Now again, you'll see that this is not going to be like that. Some students might want to just say, well, I'm going to line it up like that so it's straight with the paper or perpendicular to the paper. Remember, you're not lining it up perpendicular to the paper. You're lining it up perpendicular to the ray or the arm of the angle, or the leg, I should say, of the angle. Okay, think about which number you're going to be using, top or bottom. Well, we know it's obtuse, so I'm going to use the top numbers. So again, I'm going to start from here and use the top numbers, and I'm counting this direction. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 130, 140, 150. So now I count by ones. Remember, we're not going to say it's 165. We're going to count by ones this direction. 150, 151, 52, 53, 54, 55, about 156. Now let's say you measured it and you got like 157 or 155 or something that's close. That's okay. I mean, it's really hard to get 100% accurate. So that's close enough. But if you got like say 35, that's definitely wrong. Okay, because it is definitely an obtuse angle. All right. I am going to have you guys, you're going to finish these on your own, and you are going to bring your measurements to your next class Zoom meeting so that you can check your answers to see how you did. Really quickly, we can look at this one, and we know this one is acute. Take a look at this one, and you know this one is obtuse. This looks like it might be right. I have to measure it to make sure. That looks like it might be right. And then this one looks like it is obtuse. We'll check these two that I think might be right with our right angle template. That one looks like it might be right. And that one might look right. But we want to measure them with a protractor too, just to be sure. All right, hopefully you are successful measuring angles. And on the next page of your workbook, it talks about using different types of protractors. We only gave you one type, so you can just do the one type. If you have a different protractor, go try it. Be fun to try, okay? If you'll notice too, it says, what do you notice about the measurement of the above angle using each of the protractors? The angle measurement should always be the same. It doesn't matter how long the different rays are on the angle or the sides of the angle. The angle turning is always going to be the same. It doesn't change. And all the protractors should always give you the same measurement. All right, and then this is a straight angle. And we know that because of knowing about our circle protractor lesson that we did, oops, like that, we know that a straight angle is going to be 180 degrees. So you don't necessarily even have to measure that. You just know that's going to be 180 degrees. All right, that's about it. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you tomorrow.